The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps to cabin link check.
2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the Rift Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another awesome edition of the Otter's Den with your hosts, me and Jan, and our guest, Claire Louise Hay of BeHealing.com. How are you this evening?
Hello, I'm very good, thank
you. That's the answer we always love to hear. We don't like to hear that, oh, I'm not doing very good. No, we're going to fix that, okay? We're going to fix it. Real quick, I'm going to say, hey, Vet Girl, thanks for popping on. Hello, Chris. Hello, Z-Sun. Glad to see you back. Please share out. Sharing is caring. And what we do here is when we bring guests on, we like to get them out into the public's eye. Lets the public learn about you, what you do, how to get in touch with you. And it helps them learn a little bit as well as us learning, the hosts. We have learned a lot on this show. Some of it we didn't always intend to learn, but we learned it anyway. Hey, how you doing? Hey, Angela, thanks for popping on. Claire, let's start out with a doozy of a question. This is one I always like to start out with because it shocks my guests some of the time. Who is Claire? How did you get started in tarot? What is your journey, if you wouldn't mind?
Wow, that's a very long story. Okay. I'll try and shorten it for you. Well, I've always been a psychic. Growing up, I recall always hearing the answers to things, rhetorical questions that I had in my own mind, and then rhetorical questions that other people would ask, like, why is this happening to me? I would always hear the answers. I was always aware telepathically as well. So if people would say, like, you'll never guess what, Claire, I knew straight away because they had it in their mind, and so it took me a while to realize that not everyone had these same abilities, and I was living in a world with people that don't have those abilities, and so having to manage myself to make myself acceptable for other people, not just blurting out the answer and things like that, and developing that skill, that gift to help myself, because I had a very abusive childhood, and so I had a lot to deal with, to help myself through that, but helping other people as well. I softened into knowing the right occasions when to speak up, when people were asking those questions like, why me, in a lot of pain, in a situation where maybe it was one-on-one where I could help them out. And so that's how I used my gift, first of all. And sometimes if I was in situations that I didn't want to be in as well, I would use my gift to freak people out, because I didn't want to be there. I don't care what you think. I'm just going to, pick up a phone that wasn't ringing, and I know who's on the other end already and who they wanted, just freak people out like that.
Especially caller ID.
And so,
it's like psychic caller ID. Yes.
Sorry?
Yeah, before caller ID.
You
pick up the phone. Hi, Grandma. What? How did you? Never mind, it's you.
One of my favorites is when there's a draw or something like that, there's a prize draw, just like getting up and like, Claire, where are you going? I'm like, I won already. And then they call my name out and I'd already be on my way up to the stage to receive it. That's a good one. Yeah. And so I went to uni to do engineering, and I went into IT after that in my 20s. I was working corporate IT, and I just reached this point, 28, 29, where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's not me. I can feel like I should be doing a lot more than this, And so I quit. I quit everything at the time. I just needed to get away, and I needed to follow this path that I could feel was waiting for me. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I wanted to help people. I'd had like dreams of starting a private practice, a healing practice, but various different things. I got into essential oils for a while. Not in a big way. I hadn't done a course, but I was thinking, this is while I was in corporate, like I want to find out about that, and maybe I should do a course on it and start a business. And so I'd had all of these different things, these different interests. And when I reached that point at 29, that I wanted to quit everything and just like follow this path and see where it led me. I didn't know exactly what it was that I was going to do, but I was shown the way, and then I did some charity work in Germany and in Africa, and I was introduced to neurotherapy at the time, which is EEG biofeedback. That's helping people with neurological and psychological problems. I moved to Australia and I started a business. I moved to Byron Bay in Australia, which is like a very healing kind of a place. So many healers there, but nobody was doing neurotherapy. And so I went and did my Australasian course to practice that, and started that business there. And as I was helping people, I realized that these messages that I was giving to them with my gift were more powerful than the neurotherapy itself. And so while I was practicing, I was like just leaning more into my gift and to help people in that way, and more of like a counseling kind of thing, and answering people's questions, but still very much flying under the radar and not letting them know that I was a psychic. I just somehow knew the answers, and I was renting a treatment room to get my neurotherapy out there a little more, and because I was practicing from home mostly. And there was a lot of energy healers, tarot readers that I was working with. There's a lot of treatment rooms there. And when it was quiet, we used to sit around playing with the cards and all of that. And there's all these psychic readers doing readings for me. And then I pulled the cards out and did it. And they were all like, whoa, like, you're really good at this. Why aren't you doing this? And that's where I had to get over that
Yeah, that's
hurdle
yeah.
of like coming out and admitting to it. But I did, I did massage and energy healings and psychic readings, ended up moving into my own shop. And then I got so busy in there that people couldn't book in with me for my energy healings and for my readings. Predominantly it was then. They couldn't book in with me. They were coming to Byron for the weekend to try and to have a good time, of course, but to try and get in with me too, and they couldn't because I was fully booked. And so I started doing them online and via email and phone, put a button on my website, and then that was it. Very quickly I shifted from the shop to the website because I much preferred doing the work online, not having to get energetically involved with somebody as much when I'm working online. And it just kind of blew up from there, and that was like 25 years ago. So that's what I've been doing ever since. Writing books, doing programs online, doing my YouTube videos, and
Awesome.
all kinds of things.
I'm putting your link in the comments right now. It's just behealing.com, correct?
That's it. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, I got it.
Behealing.com.
Credit.
You also have a Facebook page, and I'm going to plug
you.
that in here.
Yeah, I'm Be Healing everywhere apart from Instagram. I'm Claire Louise Hay on Instagram. I wasn't fast enough to join Instagram to get my Be Healing name.
Yeah, it's funny how timing is. It really is. I can kind of relate to some of what you said because I'm 55, and right now I am going through the phase you went through at 29. My story is very long, so I'm not going to go through it all. But I'm in a place where I work in a factory. It's a good job, don't get me wrong, but it is no longer for me mentally, physically. There's something else I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm trying to get over my self-doubt, fear hurdle of, what if.
It's a great time to do it at the moment. And I don't think, just to butt in with what the guys are saying now, you don't need to figure that out, especially now. You don't need to figure that out because we're moving into a new earth now. There's like this splitting going on. And so the things that you can imagine doing, like careers or anything like that, they're not going to be valid in what we're moving into. The structures are going to be completely different. And so things will be opening up for you. So now all we need to do now is just kind of cruise this little bit. We're on a bridge at the moment. Just cruise this little bit, and it'll become very clear to you very soon what you'll do. You'll just get interested in something with your community and go, let's do this. And then you'll start doing that. Very different than the way that we have been living, like think of a career and then get that job. It's not going to be like that. My guys have told me it'll be more like you'll have like 5 or 10 interests and you'll be doing all of those things. And it's not going to be like choreographed by anyone. You're not going to have a boss or a few bosses. You're all just going to, it's almost telepathically, like, oh, I want you to wake up in the morning. Oh, I want to do this thing today. And everyone else that's involved with that will have that same thought when they wake up, and you'll all group together. So it's going to be very different, less control, less hierarchical kind of stuff. But I think we're going to move into that from now. I think we're moving into that now. So don't worry so much about trying to figure it out. I
agree. The energies out there are changing. The vibrations are they're a little wonky right now, but we're getting it back up to where it needs to be.
I felt that change in 2020 when we all had to shut our doors and we couldn't be a part of the outside world, right? We turned back to our telepathic ways. We turned back to our empathy ways. We had to find ways to reconnect or connect with everybody around us. And I noticed that there was a lot.
And connect with ourselves too. And be okay with ourselves, being by ourselves. And it was an important time to go through, I think. I live on a small island in Thailand, which is, very much a holiday destination, but a really strong core community here. and I was here for COVID times. I've lived here for 8 years now, and of course the island got really quiet, which was amazing. You know, like living on a paradise island with hardly anyone here. It was incredible. But what I noticed was before COVID, the kind of tourists that came here, very party, you know, a lot of drinking and all of that kind of thing. There's still that element now, but after COVID, there was way more people coming to have a healthy time. You know, it seems like the COVID times, the time we had by ourselves, a lot of people quit drinking. You know, they really faced what they were doing and like, why was I doing that all the time? What a waste of time, you know, not just drinking, but a lot of different things. So there was this element, and still the drinking, which has gone really hardcore now. You probably notice yourself that the people that are doing the wrong thing,
they're extreme. They're on the other end. And then there's us sitting here going, what are you doing?
Yeah, right. Craziness, absolute craziness. But we just got to kind of ignore those and keep on doing our thing.
Yeah, I found that it was a lot of people just that change happened. And then when we integrated back into society, we were more grateful to see people too. We were happier to see people. I was excited to get into a store and to be able to smile at somebody, to say hello and ask how their day was. And you yearned for that connection with other human beings. And you know, we have this that takes away from everything and puts us self-focused, where, you know, you take advantage of those that are around you and you didn't really see them, to where now you force.
Right, yeah. We get complacent, don't we? When we've got access to things all the time, we get complacent and we don't truly appreciate what we've got. And not only that, but I think a lot of us were a lot more grounded once we did get back out there as well, realizing, oh, a part of that being by myself was really good and I really needed it, and I really need to keep an element of that, you know, so being in a much more balanced state within ourselves, of like that retreat and then putting ourselves out there. You know, just being more self-aware of our own energy and what's good for us.
Being stuck indoors with your kids and having to deal with your kids on a 24/7 basis and teaching your kids, you got to learn who your children were. You know, I feel like a lot of times that we get so caught up that we don't take that time like we had in say 20-30 years ago, you know, with your family. And you know, we rely so much, you know, in general, you know, on the school system, on daycares, on this, on that. And here you didn't have your job to go to. They didn't have a daycare open. They didn't have a school open. And they're sitting there with you going, hi, I'm your child. Yeah. And you're like, oh, who are you? Now, I don't have that problem. I homeschool. I know who my kids are. Trust me. But I noticed that a lot of parents struggled with that. And I saw coming out of that time frame, families that were bonded better. You got that family structure back. And that's huge, especially with the empathy, teaching. It just, I don't know, like it was.
You're not wrong. And people started learning, relearning how to garden, how to knit, how to crochet, how to do this, how to do that.
How to save money.
Yeah, how to stay healthy naturally. They started studying on, you know, plant medicine instead of pharmaceutical medicine. And I mean, the lockdown backfired on them huge. It woke so many people up and they started to learn and evolve. And I think that is just an amazing thing. Myself, I, at somebody's hint, I decided to attempt to learn Reiki healing. And I didn't think I could. I'm like, I can't do that. She's like, yes, you can. Well, you're going to. Okay. Well, I now have my master's. And I actually get to help people with that. I do dabble a little bit with the tarot. By no means professional, but there's quite a few times where I hit the nail on the head. That is spirit allowing me to help somebody, like you, allowing us to help them get to where they need to be and give them the answers that they're seeking. And it's an amazing feeling when you know, you hear that, you know what, that's right. That I needed that. That helped me. That really makes you feel really, really good. I got to thank Spirit for that.
Now that you mentioned tarot keys, now what drew you specific? I know what drew me specifically to tarot, because I was a lot like you. I knew things before I should know things. I said things that I probably shouldn't have said, and people went, why are you coming up with those colors? I know what drew me to tarot was being more specific. I could hear the end. I always say that. Oh, how do I put this? It's not me laying the cards out, it's the energy laying the cards out. So it's easier for me to lay those cards out and hear the energy that way. And I just stumbled into tarot, and I only use one deck, and it's my baby.
All right.
I
got into tarot. You've got a whole, I've got shelves of them here. I found my first tarot deck. So my dad had bought a secondhand bookstore in England, and it was, full of books, and there was a seller in there, and he's not much of a reader. I don't really understand why I got a bookshop, but I was really excited by it. Like, a cellar full of books that aren't out there. I need to go and search things out. And so I was helping him out by putting books on eBay to sell them, like just going through the stock that was there. Some of them were worth a lot of money, right? And he had no idea. We had no idea. And so I went into this cellar looking through all of these books, and there was one tarot deck there, and a book about the tarot. Yes. And so I'm like, this is mine. That one's mine. And I took that home and then started reading it. That was the Mythical Tarot deck. And while I was there was a lady that came in. She was running angel workshops nearby, and she came in wanting to order all of these angel cards. She ran these workshops, and she would give each of the people that came on the workshop a deck of these angel cards. And so when I ordered them for her, of course, I ordered one extra for me. I'm like, that's interesting. I need my own. And so I was using those angel cards for a while I was learning about the tarot. And so that was the start of it. When I moved to Australia, I got more into like the Doreen Virtue cards. That's what was in that healing center that I was renting a treatment room. But I had my tarot deck at home, of course, and so that kind of spurred me into learning the tarot more. Again, from that deck, but I never really got into that deck so much. It was so interesting. It was like it was a portal for me. It was like a doorway to me, but that deck was just that. It was just that path to it. It was never about that deck for me. And then when I was using more of the oracle cards for my readings, like you said, Jan, I wanted to get more specific. So I'm not just a tarot reader, I'm a psychic, and so I don't need to use anything. But if I use things, it gives me a direction, or like a compass. It's like a trigger for what I need to say, and it brings me back on path as well when I look back at the card. So I find it gives structure to the readings, the cards, rather than me just channeling. So I do some channeling shows. I've got like some groups of people that I do channeling with, and I do channeled guided meditations on my YouTube channel as well. But I do a channeled meditation every week, and then I sit there and I'm recording it. And then when I come out of it, I think, oh, that was only 5 minutes long, but it wasn't. It was half an hour. I have no idea how long I'm going on when I'm channeling. It's a different space. But I couldn't do that to do readings. You can't work like that. So it's got to be more regimented, and the cards do that for me.
Awesome.
As well as, like the cards, there'll be different things on them. When I'm like looking at a card, my eyes will be drawn to like a certain point. And so it's not always the same card, like one card to mean a specific thing. It could be something that's general about the card, but sometimes the guides will just work through anything. Like, look at this card, look at that bit of it, whether it's on a tarot card or something in my environment, or something like in a newspaper that's, next to me, a sign that I walk past. They'll just through anything. And sometimes it's through memories too. They'll work through memories. And so I've got a customer and then they'll remind me of something that I went through or give me that feeling again. I'm like, oh, I know this one. Like they're telling me that this my customer's got that feeling, and then I can explain about that feeling. Because I've done so much healing on myself that I can then convey, oh, you've got this thing going on and I figured that one out. This is what it's about. And they're like, that's exactly it. Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways that they'll work through it, but tarot just it makes it more like work, It gives it.
I feel
gives it
it's more
structure.
simple. It simplifies everything. It helps because channeling is tiring. I channel and I get out and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? I need a 6-hour nap. Nobody touched me. Nobody talked to me. And if you're right, like it's more of a guide point, and it also I feel it shows you, okay, no, they need this specific energy is coming through, and this is what they need this person to know right now. So then it lays out the whole, what affected this. This is how it's going to happen. This is what you have to do. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I got a bad tarot reading. No, tarot reading is really, truly bad.
No.
You still have free will to change the outcome of your tarot reading.
Oh, right. Especially once you've had a reading and you know about it, that's when you can, be aware of it and like, okay, well, I'm not choosing that.
Yeah,
I'm
or
do
it could be 6 months.
Yeah, as soon as you get a reading, you've changed the future, because most people will do something about it, and so then they change it with a free will.
I've only had one tarot reading that I've walked away from, and it so happened I was doing the tarot reading for somebody else, and I looked at her and I said, "This tarot reading's not for you. This is a warning for me." And they looked at me, they're like, "What?" I'm like, "I am very sorry. I know that you were expecting me to read you, but the energy's telling me I need to pay attention to something." And they were warning me about an upcoming, it was literally warning me about an upcoming event and that I wasn't going to be able to change. And it was, this is definitive, this is going to happen, and it's coming up, and you need to be aware and you need to prepare yourself for this. And that's about the only time I've ever said, okay, no, this isn't going to change. Like, there's nothing that I can do about this. And a couple of weeks later, the event happened and my whole world changed. And I went, okay, yeah, there was nothing that I could have done about it. And what will be, and this is it. But yeah, I tell people all the time, if I always get the, oh my goodness, I pulled the death card. Death doesn't mean death. Death just means great change. Now, if you have the death with the twin or the towers, we're gonna have a sit down talk, and we're gonna discuss where you're going in your life. That's a bad reading, But this is a warning reading, not necessarily a bad reading. I just
right. Yeah. And that's all we're doing, really, is we're reading like current energies and current trajectories based on the energy staying the same. People don't stay the same, but people can stay in the same patterns until they're made aware of something, right? And so hopefully a reading makes someone aware of something, so they do change that trajectory if they want to.
Yeah,
might be a good
that reading is for right now. If you go back in next week, they may get something completely different because they've changed it. So they went left at the stop sign instead of right. And that all plays into how accurate the reading is. And a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, I used to do these psychic tarot shows on YouTube. Every morning I'd be on, and people would come on asking questions, and I'd be giving these mini readings to people. And there was one time somebody came on, and it was very powerful. I said, "I don't know what's going on around you, but you need to get out. You need to get out of where you are. You're in danger. You need to take your things and get out right now. Like, do it straight away." And she said, "Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about." And then she disappeared, right? And so that really stood out to me. Most readings aren't like that, but I think I'm never saying something that people aren't really aware of themselves anyway. Sometimes people just need that confirmation and the push to actually do something about it.
Not wrong at all.
Yeah. Especially when people are in scary situations, because we only get ourselves into things like that because we've been numb to it, because we got used to it, because it's happened over and over again, and that's when people get stuck there
Yeah.
thinking it's normal, and it's nowhere near normal. And when you've got someone, be it a therapist or a psychic, telling you this is really bad, it makes you aware of that. It's like, okay, I do need to do something
Yeah.
about this.
Everybody, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's an outside perspective. It's somebody on the outside that can look at the whole situation. And being a psychic, you have that empathy. Everybody says, "Oh, well, you don't know what it's like to be in my shoes." Well, I kind of do. I can put myself in your shoes and I can look around. That's what I do. And this isn't good. You need to change this, and you need to do this now. And it's that outside perspective that makes it more believable. Is that what I want to say? Where they're like, okay, all right, I believe you now.
Yeah, I think we need validation. Like spiritual teachers have said that we don't need validation. We shouldn't seek external validation, but sometimes we need it. We're social creatures, and you know what it's like. We get into patterns, and we can change it when, like, we go traveling, and then we realize, oh, people aren't like that everywhere, and so I can change this about myself because I prefer the way that they are. It takes some external energy for us to see things clearly, whether that's someone telling you. And we try and do that in parenthood, right? And it doesn't really work. We try and do it with our friends sometimes, and it doesn't really work. But in a professional setting, when someone's coming to you for help, it works because they've asked. They've asked for it first. That's why when I first realized I had the gift, it's when people were asking questions. It's really powerful to ask questions, and the kind of questions that we ask are very important. It's important. The questions that we ask within our mind are very important. We've got to ask the right questions, and big questions too.
Yeah, if you try to help somebody that doesn't want the help, they're not going to accept the help. They have to want the help in order for you to help them.
Can't do that. Did you figure that out, Jan, on your tarot journey? You can't give people readings when they haven't asked for it. Try and help people when they haven't asked.
You just can't. And I find, like, I feel the same way, that if I come out and tell you something, you're not going to listen to me, but I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch you. I'm going to watch you reel in your shit, and then I'll offer you that lifeline out, but you have to ask for it. Because I can't give it freely, because if I give it freely, you're just going to laugh at me. You're going to tell me I'm full of it. But I also feel when they come to you and they ask you, you are their safe space. They put that trust to you, right? So they're willing to accept what you have to say. Well, it's up to them to accept what you have to say, but more than often than not, they accept what you have to say. I just can't stand the ones that question.
Yeah. That's it. I was about to say the same thing. We're in tune. Yeah, I can't stand them too. The ones that come along want to prove that you can't do what you do, that it's just a test. It's like you're a show or something like that. I'm not interested in that at all. There's a lady that got a reading from me once, and it was very specific. It was very specific about her writing children's books and all of this detail. And then she sent me this rant email back to me saying that could have been for anyone. It was so general, and like, you must have looked me up on Facebook and seen that I'd got children, and figured out that perhaps I'd write children's books. It's like that, like nobody would do that.
I just became your personal stalker.
Spend time doing that.
It's interesting that you use that as an example, because that is actually something that I've been thinking about doing, is writing children's books. So thank you for that verification.
Well, there you go.
I have about 10 of them started, and I probably will never finish them. I'm hoping someday somebody will find them and finish them for me.
Jan, what is this? What is this, Jan?
I know mine's the ABCs of emotions, though, for kids. Like this. Like you have angry Andy, and angelic, Anna type things, and how they go about it, the right from wrong situation. So they're
Get her done.
When you have kids, it's hard to write with kids.
I know.
Yeah. Especially that blonde one.
She is amazing, though.
Speaking of kids, one of mine's in the chat there.
Is that right?
Yeah, my daughter-in-law, Megan.
Hello, Megan.
This is
there she is.
Hi,
Megan.
That's my mates. It's the mama of my grandbabies.
I'm her crazy friend. Just saying. If
What
people
was
hear,
your
go ahead.
favorite place? I'm going to ask, what was your favorite place to live? I've lived all over too, and it's one heck of an experience being able to travel and live in different places and learn about different cultures, learn different language. Hi, Dylan, my oldest. Um, so, like, what is it like learning?
Oh, here, Thailand is definitely my favorite place to live. I didn't expect to move here. I moved to Australia from England. I was never happy in England. Never happy with the
Stuffy?
energy there. All the whole time that I was there, and even like visiting back once I'd moved to Australia. But yeah, once I visited Australia, because a friend had moved there, it just felt like home to me when I got there, and so I decided to move there very quickly after I'd visited, and yeah, it was good. I lived there 12 years, maybe a bit longer. And it was just like a coincidence. I had some psychics working for me quite a while ago, and one of them kept on saying to me, "Why haven't you come to Asia? Why haven't you come to Asia?" But I'd never had the prompts to do that. I follow what my guides say. I don't, have a plan myself and decide to do things myself. Very rarely. Sometimes I'll have a dream, and like my guides will fit that into their plans for me. But yeah, I was living in a place. I'd lived on a yacht for a while, and then I was in this place, and I had a fun job. I was running my business, but I had a fun job on a yacht because I love sailing. And I was living in a resort in this town, but then it was coming up high season. We all had to get out of the resorts, and so then there was nowhere for the locals to live. And I was looking for a place to live, and I couldn't find anywhere. And a friend of mine was wanting to travel around Asia, and so I'm like, well, can't find somewhere to live. I had like 2 days left. I'm like, well, I've got to make a different decision. I'll travel around Asia too. And so, like, that was, it seemed like that was the only thing that I could do at the time. It wasn't like a choice, a conscious choice that I'd made to come to Asia, really. And I spent a month in Bali, a month in Vietnam, a month in Cambodia, and then came to Thailand, Bangkok, Koh Phangan, and I kept on seeing. I live on Koh Tao now. Kept on seeing like videos of Koh Tao, feeling like I need to go there. I need to go there. And when I got here, I did what always happens to me when I'm going to live somewhere. Like the same set of circumstances happens to me every time I visit somewhere that I'm going to live. And it's that I meet the locals straight away. It's like I meet the community straight away that are my community, and the people I'm friends with forever after that. And that's what happened here. And with my business being online, I'm doing it from anywhere. So which is why I could travel with it. Yeah, I wanted to stay here. I'd lived on an island that's similar size to this. This is like 8 kilometers by 4 kilometers, very small island, but a really good mix, a lot to do here, and an amazing community as well. Just the right mix for me. And so that, and that it's a Buddhist country, it makes a huge difference to the whole vibe of the place and the way that people are with each other. Yeah, absolutely love it. And I've got mostly Thai friends here, and they said, like, within a couple of years of me living here, that I'm not really like the Farang, they call them, the Westerners. I'm more Thai than Westerner. And yeah, it is. It's just a softer place to live. People are more like me. And so now I haven't actually been out of the country since when COVID first started. I used to have to go out of the country to get visas, but since COVID, they kept on tiding our visas over because we couldn't go out of the country, and then I was able to get a retirement visa after that. So yeah, I'm just like, I'm here now, and people keep on saying to me, like, why don't you go anywhere? Why don't you travel? But I've traveled so much, and I've lived in so many places, and the one thing that I haven't had is this that I've got here: a community, family, This is a new experience for me. And other people will go out for new experiences, but this is a new experience
It makes
for
a
me.
huge
So
difference.
it's like
Yeah.
my version of travel.
Yeah, when you find a place that feels like home, there's nothing like it. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Well, and to find that surrender.
And we're doing amazing things here too. Like I'm really into Muay Thai. I can't do it at the moment because I've got frozen shoulders right now. But I help out at a gym there, and it's almost been open a year now. It's the original owner, the one that had the first Muay Thai gym here. He went away in COVID times, and then he came back. But it was like a community effort to build this new gym and stadium. So there's a lot of owners of it. I think there's like 8 or 10 owners of it, and as a result, there's a lot of people involved in it. And like I was saying before, Keith, I've had this experience now of like a non-hierarchical kind of a business thing where we all go and we put these events on, and there's no one in charge. There's no one telling us what to do, and it's so much fun. And it's everything gets done, and we have an amazing time. And it blows my mind that we can all work together, like as an organism like that, to create these things without there being a boss. And yeah, I'm really loving that experience. And it feels to me like, with my work with Be Healing and my channeling for people, and especially this New Earth shift as well, which, I mean, the guides have been all about that since January this year. I'm now realizing I'm getting some of the experiences here on the island of like the way forward, to kind of show like this is the way that we can do it. This is the way that we can live. It's even for Thailand, this island attracts the kind of people that want to opt out of a lot of the structures. And so some people see it as like a renegade island because of that. But from getting to know the community here, there's some really interesting characters as a result of that, wanting to do their own things and, really being
human.
So certain in that. Like one character that I'm thinking of is like the least policeman you'd ever meet, hasn't got the energy of a policeman at all, but he's one of the longest standing policemen on the island because he's a community guy and does his things his own way. And that makes it very interesting, especially in COVID times. I was doing things like if you didn't wear your mask, you'd be doing push-ups in the street or squats, as a punishment. It was just tackled in a very different way. A lot of people not wanting to follow the rules, wanting to make better rules. It's not about not wanting to follow the rules. It's not wanting to follow rules that make no sense and don't work. Yeah, that's what we've got here. So I'm really loving
more
that.
of a human connection. It's more of, it's just.
Yeah. Let's do what works and what's fun.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. See, I thought about moving to Uruguay for that reason. Uruguay is a young democracy, and they're very go with the flow. You can travel along the streets and stop and stay at someone's house, work in their field, get to know them, get to know the community. The communities are welcoming in the small areas. And then you move on to the next family, and you can help with that family, and they teach you about the area. And that intrigued me. And I'm like, I would love someplace like that. It has the mountains. It has the ocean. I lived on Hawaii. Sorry, Keith. Hold on. I lived on Hawaii. In fact, that's where Dylan was born, was Hawaii. Yeah. And I got island locked. I got island fever. I was like, I can travel around this island in 100 or like in an hour and 30 minutes. And it drove me crazy. But I think that also it was the energy that was there. It wasn't that it was the natives there. It was the tourists that were coming there that create this chaotic environment. It was all the military bases. And it was just, although I would say that hi, Adrian. That's my other half. I would say that, the military for the most part tried to flow in, and we became native ourselves, but I got to experience it from the native side. And if you could take away the tourist and you could take away the extras, it was amazing. I love the energy. I love the flow. Dylan was baptized in a very traditional Samoan way, Polynesian way. And I appreciated that. Of course, they were convinced that he was 100% Hawaiian because he was like 10 and a half pounds when he was born. But I miss that. There's a different sense of community, especially when you are on an island. You have just each
Yeah.
other to support and to rely on. So things are approached in a very different way. Very.
Yeah, and when you live on a small island as well, like it only I just ride around on my bicycle. This is how small it is here, and it takes me 20 minutes is the furthest I can get away from where I am here on my bicycle. So it is very small. And when you live in a small community as well, you have to be more responsible for yourself. And you have to deal with things too, because there's no getting away from anybody and everyone's in each other's business. You can't do anything here without everybody knowing about it very,
Small
very
town. I
fast.
get it.
I can literally tell someone something and be riding down the hill, and then when I get to the new
Yeah.
place, they know
Yeah.
already. It's like
And
that.
the can in the stream.
Which it makes you accountable. It makes you accountable. Like there's no running away from things. You do have to deal with problems, and you have to deal with people. You have to deal with people that you don't like that are in the community as well, and find out a way to like cohabit the place together, which is an important skill to have. And I think in the Western society, which is more individualistic kind of thing, and you can hide away from each other, and yeah, with too many people around, you can get away from that or not have to deal with things.
It's a sense of yeah, it does. It brings that sense of responsibility. And I feel like also everybody's family. Like you.
Yeah.
I always say I had a lot of kids, and I'm like, well, you know what? I had a lot of you guys. So when you go out into the world and you deal with that prick, you can just think of your brother and be like, oh yeah, that's right. This is how I dealt with that. I'm like, but at least you don't have to go home to him at the end of the day. But I felt like in our small community that we were family, no matter what. We made our disagreements
Right.
and our
Yeah.
arguments, and I may not like the way you do something, but in the end, is it that big of a deal? I don't know. It's just more human.
In Thailand, they do the family thing in a different way than I've seen anywhere else in the world. So when somebody moves to this island to work, Thai person will come, say, work in the gym. They get accommodation and they get the food. It's not just for gyms; it's for anywhere that you work here. You join the family. You're not expected to move somewhere and then fend for yourself, find yourself somewhere to live and feed yourself. If you're there, then the owners of that place, they take care of you. They're not expecting you to be somewhere and then somehow you've got to find your own food. Like when you think of that, it makes so much sense, right? It's like, well, of course, why are we expected to go to someone else's place, work for them, and somehow find the food, even though we've got to be there?
Struggle to find a place to live.
It's kind of violent when you
Yeah.
think about it, right? What we expect Westerners to do. So there's that. And so once you become part of these different families, even like as a visitor, well, I live here, but the gym that I go to, and then there's other places that I go to as well. I've got these different families around the island, and so yeah, it's like that. It's different families, groups that you're actually a part of, and they will take care of you. And you're expected to eat at all these places as well, so you can't like visit everyone in a day. You'd be eating way too much.
Get fat.
But not just that as well. Another thing that I've noticed too is like I'm 54, but a lot of my friends here will be like in the early 40s. My women friends have got like young kids, but they've also got older kids, and I didn't realize that. So a lot of the time when they have kids, like when they get pregnant, if they're a teenager or like 18, 19, 20, 21, still teenagers in my mind, then they're not expected to look after those kids themselves. They're not. So my first realization of this was suddenly meeting a friend's son. It's like she's got young kids, but then there's this older, and she's like, this is my son. I'm like, oh, it was a surprise to me. And so I ask, and it's the grandparents or extended family that look after that child. So yeah, teenagers are not expected to look after their own children. It's they're looked after by the family, and then they make a decision when they want to have children and be that family unit in themselves, and then they'll look after their children now. And it's like, well, that makes so much sense too. To expect a teenager to be a parent is ridiculous. When I think about it, that's ridiculous. Yeah, so I just love that the way that they do things, it makes so much more sense to me.
That's so much like the Mexican culture that we have here. I'm from New Mexico, so I'm like right on
Is
the
it?
Mexican border. And our grandparents take care of our kids. We try to keep our families in the home. We try to do it the old traditional way of the family takes care of the family. And you have generations, maybe sometimes in one house, you have aunts and uncles and cousins, and everybody just takes care of everybody. And I feel it just, you learn so much about your family history. You get so much, I don't even know how to put it. It's just so much love and so much support because it takes a village to raise a kid. Where, Karen and Bobby down the road, they're like, no, they're my kids. Don't get involved. Where, I'm like, hey, with my grandkids, like, no, I'm not your mom, but I'm your grandma, and you're not going to do that. That's not right. And, I will help my kids out any way that I can because they're young parents. And yeah, no, I think that's amazing. That's amazing. I wish.
It's hard to explain it to tourists sometimes that don't understand because all of the island kids will be running around and it seems like they're by themselves, but they're not,
watching.
We're all there. And to a tourist, they see like a mass of people. But to a local, we don't see a mass of people. We see a mass of tourists, but then we see where the locals are, It's just like a different dimension in a way of just like noticing who's there. And so the kids, they aren't by themselves. Everyone's looking out for them. But the tourists can't see that, right? And so, and it's the same with the island animals as well. It's as well as the children. So I've got a cat at the moment, but I didn't get a cat. She chose me. And the island dogs too. You could see them as like street dogs or island dogs, but they're not. They go around and they'll choose to stay with you for a while, and then they'll go somewhere else. And everyone knows who they are. There's some dogs that are owned by people, but there's a lot of animals that are like that are just kind of everyone's friend, and we all take care of them. That feels to me like as it should be.
They know who's going to spoil and give the extra love, and when they're tired of it, they're just going to move on. Like, okay, I'm done with you.
It's why I don't carry dog treats. I do not carry dog treats because all of them know who are the dog treat lady and guys. And I'm not going to become one of them. You got to love me for me, not for my treats.
Absolutely.
So it's a more natural way of living, which is nice, especially being a psychic and doing your line of work. You have your peace all around you. You have that level playing ground. That's
right. Yeah. When you're a sensitive person, you got to be sensitive to do this work, and the world and other places is not a good place to be a sensitive person. That's why I couldn't stand being in England. It was just too much. And I'm not saying that all of England is bad, but where I was, I just couldn't stand that energy.
I say smug.
Yeah, Australia was a little easier to me. This is way easier for me.
That's some place I've always wanted to go is Australia. Maybe someday.
Spiders.
Someone's saying that I sound like Olivia Newton-John. It's funny, I had a very strong Northern English accent. And when I moved to Australia, my accent changed in the first 2 years to like midway, and then it stayed there.
It's very distinct. It's awesome in a good way.
Yeah, it's individual.
I have an aunt from England, so I can hear the England accent, and I have friends from Australia, so I can hear the crossover. I completely understand that. If you hear me yell at kids, I sound Mexican half the time. So. I get that accent going. No, I agree. It's hard living in places that are chaotic. Like for me, going to Walmart is hard because everybody's so,
Yeah.
They're so negative.
yeah, they're negative Nancy's. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I can't breathe. I'm going to put my headphones in. I'm going to ground myself. I'm going to smile and I'm going to push through this Walmart trip. And
Stay in your little bubble. We don't have a shopping centre on this island. Like we've got like a couple of supermarkets, but they're not what you'd call supermarkets in any other place. And a few years ago, I was going to get dental work done on another island, which is much bigger. They're actually putting a bridge to the mainland on that island. And that's got shopping centres and things. Like nothing on the scale of what would be around you, though. But even going in there, it's not even about the people. It's about the lights and all of that advertising. It's just like, it's noise. It's noise to me. It's like a buzzing and it's too much. Looking back, that's what a big problem of mine was working in corporate as well, like the overhead lights and that whole office. Even though like I had a window seat and I was looking out on this little, creek out the back, I couldn't stand that artificial lighting and all of that. It's like constant.
Yeah, I walk
buzz.
into my job. It is a battery factory. We make plastic battery cases. And we have now 34 machines that run 480 volt dead short heaters in order to melt the plastic. The electricity coming into that place is crazy. I can feel it coming into the parking lot. And I got to work in there every day. So I am energetically shielding myself from that. I carry shungite and some other things to assist me in, saying no, thank you. But that's another reason why it's time for me to move on and find something else. It's not a healthy situation.
My oldest.
Do you use like grounding mats and grounding sheets?
Yeah, I've got
on
grounding
the bed and
sheets.
things like that?
As long as my cat doesn't chew the cord up.
You want to see mine? I've got.
Okay.
Let me show you. This is my grounding mat underneath
Oh,
my desk.
nice.
Torn to shreds by my cat, but it still works. I've got a tester.
Yeah,
to
I
make
do
sure
too.
that
It came with the sheets. And if you have not tried a grounding mat or grounding sheets, do yourself a favor. Yeah, but verify that the outlets, especially if you live in an older home, verify that your outlets are actually grounded because a lot aren't.
Yeah, I had my bed sheet. I've got like a bed. It's probably about 1.5 meters width right across my bed. I put it from my shoulders, so it's tucked up just beneath the cushions. And I had that plugged into a, what do you call those boards? Extension socket board thing.
Power outlet.
No.
Yeah, I had it an extension board. Whatever. Anyway, I had it plugged into one of those, and it was just last week. I felt like testing it out again, and in my mind, I got my tester out to see if the mat was still grounded because the cat's torn it to pieces. Thought, how can it still work? But it does. It still works. Amazed me, and I tested my bed sheet. And no, so I plugged it into another grounding outlet, and then it worked. And so yeah, you need to test it because it made a big difference. What I'd noticed was I got frozen shoulders at the moment. Apparently it happens to a lot of women in menopause, and I do a lot of fitness stuff. And so
Power strip. Thank you, Adrian.
Power strip. There you go. Thank you, Adrian.
Always Adrian come to
and I noticed like my shoulders were really sore at night. And so that's what had me like testing. And as soon as I plug it back in again and it's grounded again, my shoulders have been so much better overnight. It gives them what they need to heal it overnight. Like that's when we're healing. So I'd say that the bed sheet is the most important one to get if you're getting grounding
those
stuff.
Positive, negative ions, it helps the human body heal.
I was thinking about getting my son and daughter-in-law actually a set. They should plug their ears right now. But I was thinking about getting a set because my son works in the factory and he works with a core in a core factory. It's the only one that we have in North America. And I can't imagine the energy. I can because I lived in the town. Not lived in the town, but I lived 20 minutes away from the town, and I could still feel that energy, that core energy. And I'm like, God, Terry, you work right next to that core, and it has to be tearing you up mentally. It has to be tearing you up physically. And that's one of the things that I really thought about getting was that grounding sheet, and to really help him just when he lays down, be able to and to let it all go, and to be able to, because it tears up his body, and it tears up his energy just being in the factory. Adrian's menopause.
Well, I found out that I found out that I had really high blood pressure in COVID times, and I had to go to the hospital. It's a tiny little hospital here in the mornings. Well, I chose to go in the morning when it opens. I'm an early bird. I get up really early, and usually I'll go for a beach walk in the morning. But when I was going to the hospital, I was going there. Some days I was going there first. Now, what I found was, if I'd gone for a beach walk before I went to the hospital, my blood pressure would be normal. If I hadn't gone to the beach before, my blood pressure would be high. And it's like, oh, okay, I just need to go to the beach. It's like, you need that grounding, right? That grounding is really important, to putting your feet on the ground, And it's funny because, like, I've been in the spiritual world, spiritual business and all of that. People will say, do it in a meditation or whatever. Just imagine that you've got roots going down. It's like, no, grounding is actually putting your feet on the ground, And with my test, it's not concrete. It doesn't work on concrete. You're not grounded on concrete or anything like that. It's got to be on grass, dirt, sand, You can touch a tree or hold a leaf even. It'll ground you. But yeah, it's got to be natural.
My significant other works in a company that they put up power lines, and he literally,
my phone's going crazy.
We were talking about sticking, what are they called, Keith, to read electricity?
Multimeter.
You can stick a multimeter in the ground, and you can read the voltage coming from the ground, if you're holding it in your hand. You step on the concrete, there's nothing there. You step in the grass, and it goes straight up. Even adding water to the dirt from one end to the other end, and how that affects the electricity in the ground for grounding and the energy and whatnot. So I can imagine the beach walk. You have the sand, you have the ocean right there.
Salt.
I miss those. I miss walking along the
it's
beach.
Amazing.
It's very grounding. It's very soothing. It's very.
That's why it feels so amazing when you get into a natural body of water as well. I mean, it feels good getting into a swimming pool, but it's completely different getting into the ocean or getting into a lake. It just gets rid of all the charge that you've
that
got
water's
out
connected
of you.
to the ground instead of concrete.
Emotions too.
Yeah. But
So it's like we've got to realize that we're these electromagnetic beings, right? And we need to tend to that. And the planet is just like perfect for that.
Yeah.
It's got it all covered. But
we
covered it and messed it up. We've put plastic on our feet and, concrete on the floor, and we've messed that up. And so, we need to ground.
That we do.
I love seeing a river. A river is just perfect.
Yep. Flowing, you can feel the energy from the flowing water. It is amazing.
I used to have the best of both worlds when I lived in Byron Bay. I lived right near the beach, and I'd go for my beach walk, and then there was this tea tree lake that was just off the beach. So I'd go into this inlet, and then I'd swim across this lake. Tea tree lake, because there's tea trees all around the outside, and it drops their leaves, and then makes the water go brown, like a tea, an infusion of the tea tree. And it smells beautiful, of course. And so that was just perfect, a beach walk and then swimming in that lake.
Hawaii, there was a place where I used to go, and you had a private beach and then a public beach, and you had to get through this private land to get to the public beach. And I had permission to go across the public land, and there was a stream that would go through. So I would get the best of both worlds in the same sense of I get to walk through this stream where the walking trees are, and then I get to, go swim in the ocean, go relax, and then I get to walk across back that creek. It just, yeah,
The entire experience.
Mm.
Speaking of entire experiences, ladies, we are at the hour. So, Claire, I would like to thank you for coming on and
Yes,
letting
thank
our
you.
guests know who you are. Why don't you go ahead and I put your links in the comments again. Why don't you go ahead and tell them how they can find you, where they can find you, and I will say I do listen to her readings on an almost daily basis from her YouTube channel. Hint, hint. You should go subscribe, and they are amazing. They really help me get through the day.
Yeah, so I do a Today's Tarot show every day on my Be Healing YouTube channel. So it's called Be Healing. And I do a weekly meditation on there as well. I'll put that on at the weekends. And my website, behealing.com, just rolled back my prices to 2019
Nice.
prices. I know people are struggling at the moment. So I wanted to do that. And so you can get readings, energy healings, and check out my courses on there too. Where else? Yeah. Facebook and Instagram. Claire Louise Hay on Instagram and Facebook
There
Be
we go.
Healing as well. And get in touch with me there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on tonight. Me and Joni will see you next week. And you have a
Pleasure.
great evening. Thank you again, Claire. You bet.
Thank you for having me.